Shalom, everybody. We're back again, and we're just going to do the counting of the Omer. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al safirat haomer, hayom yom arba'im v'sheva. Blessed are you, Yehovah Elohah, King of the universe, who's commanded us to count the Omer on this day, day 47.
Shalom, beloveds of the King. Praise Abba Father. As we continue our journey, and how exciting it is as tonight we enter into the we're coming into day 47, which means tonight we enter into the time of the last 3 days, the last 3 nights, as we're now entering to that time of where it's spoken of, let's just quickly read that in Exodus chapter 19, when the Father spoke to the children of Israel, well, he spoke to Moses to tell the children of Israel to prepare themselves in order to be able to come up the mountain. And so we read in Exodus chapter 19 from verses 9, and it says, "And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, See, I'm coming to you in the thick cloud, so that the people hear when I speak with you and believe you forever." And Moshe reported the words of the people to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, "Go to the people and set them apart tomorrow." So you see, tonight we enter into the 3rd day. So from tomorrow the day, and set them apart today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments and shall be prepared by the 3rd day, for on the 3rd day shall come down on the 3rd day Yahuwah shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. And so, praise the Father. This is when the Father is now speaking, and we are at a time now where we're going to climb up the mountain, where we're getting ourselves prepared to climb up the mountain, to be able to come before the Father. And so this is exciting as we continue our journey with Yirmiyahu in the understanding of what Jeremiah is saying in this time, where how interesting it is as we continue to read, it is really Father really now bringing his judgments upon the nations. And tonight we are going to see concerning the Ammonites, Ammon and Edom, and what the Father has to say in these scriptures. Concerning the Ammonites, thus said Yahuwah, has Israel no sons? Has he no heir? Why has Malcolm taken possession of Gad, and his people dwell in its cities? And so the Ammonites, who are the Ammonites? They are the descendants that come from Ben Ami, and Ben Ami was the son of the youngest daughter. Moab was, the Moabites come from Moab, that was the sons of the eldest daughter of Lot, and Ben Ami was the youngest daughter of Lot. It was from that Ben Ami's descendants, the Ammonites. Therefore, see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when I shall sound a battle cry in Rabbah of the Ammonites, and it shall be a heap, a wasteland, and her villages shall be burnt with fire. Then Israel shall dispossess those who dispossessed him, declares Yahuwah. And if we go read, let's read Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 8 to 11. In Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 8 to 11, it says, I have heard the reproach of Moab and the revilings of the children of Ammon, which they have reproached my people and exalted themselves against their borders. Therefore as I live, declares Yahuwah of hosts, the allure of Israel. Moab shall be like Sodom, and the children of Ammon like Amorah. So you see, Moab and Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be the Moabites and the Amorites. A possession for weeds, and a pit of salt, and a waste forever. The remnant of my people plunder them, and the rest of my nation possesses them. This is what they get for their pride, because they have reproached and exalted themselves against the people of Yahuwah of hosts. Yahuwah shall be awesome to them, for he shall make all the mighty ones of the earth to shrivel, while all the coastlands of the nations bow down to him, each one from his place. So we see that this is what the Father is going to do, that he's going to make them a heap of a wasteland. This is already what he has spoken. Howl, O Heshbon, for Ai is ravaged. Cry, daughters of Rabbah, gird on sackcloth, lament, and diligently search by the walls, for Malcolm shall go into exile with his priests and his heads. So you see, this is where the Father is now bringing a judgment against the Ammonites, and Rabbah is obviously one of the cities in the area, and this is the destruction that is coming upon them. Why do you boast in the valleys, your flowing valley, O backsliding daughter, who is trusting in her treasures, saying, who would come up again? Who would come against me? So that is definitely a word for now. Because at the end of the day, how many people have backslidden? Backslidden in the church, backslidden people, backslidden no longer serving the Father. And what have they put their trust and their faith in? They've put their trust and their faith in their possessions. And they've put their trust and their faith in the arm of the flesh. Whatever we've put our trust and our faith in, other than putting our trust and our faith in the Father, is going to be to our destruction. And so we must understand in the days ahead, only Abba Yahuwah is going to carry us. Because if he has declared and decreed a thing, it shall be as he has said. And here he is declaring and he is decreeing. And that which he declares and that which he decrees shall surely come to pass. See, verse 5, see, I'm bringing fear upon you from all those around you, declares the Master Yahuwah of hosts. And you shall be driven out, each one straight ahead, with no one to bring home the wanderer. So you see, the Father is going to drive out these nations. And so as we're reading this, we must understand, we must not forget Abba Yahuwah is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change. And that is why I'm saying, for us to truly understand the heart of the Father, this is why we see his heart in the prophets. Because the Father has declared a thing, the Father has decreed a thing. The Father continues to give time for repentance. But if the people do not want to repent, then what is it that is coming ahead of them? Judgment. Because the people do not learn righteousness from when they go through good times, but the people tend to bow their knee when they go through bad times. So unless he sends his judgments, the people of the earth do not learn righteousness. So how are they going to learn righteousness unless he unleashes his judgments? And so, verse 6, after this, I turn back the captivity of the children of Ammon, declares Yahuwah. So there will be a turning back of their captivity. They will turn back. But like I said, in the days ahead, if they have not turned back to the Father, then what do you think is coming? If they do not turn back to the Father, what is going to come? Concerning Edom, now this is where we're going to understand Edom. Now, concerning Edom, thus said Yahuwah of hosts, is there no more wisdom in Teman? Has counsel been lost to those with understanding? Has their wisdom vanished? So you see, what does the Father want? He wants us to be able to have wisdom. He wants us to have understanding. And where do we obtain wisdom? And where do we obtain understanding, if not by His Ruach? So you see, if we are not consulting His Ruach, if we are not consulting Him by His Ruach to be able to lead us and teach us and guide us and pray and show us the way that we are to go, and we go our own way, then that is why He's saying, where did we get our counsel from? Because then we will lose understanding and our wisdom will vanish if we do things of the flesh. Flee, turn back, dwell in the depths, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I shall bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I shall punish him. So you see, Edom is really the children of Esau. And we must understand that today, if we look at the land Edom today, in the area of where it would have been the land of Edom, there's very few people. It was a very, very large city, a very, very large city. But right now, it is a place with very few people that live. And so this prophecy was very much already fulfilled. And so understand when he says, the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I shall punish him. Because what does Esau stand for? Esau stood for the flesh. Remember, Esau sold his birthright for a plate of lentil soup. And therefore he sowed to his flesh. Just like we see Cain and Abel. Cain sowed to his flesh and eventually killed his brother. And Esau represents everything that is of the flesh man. And that's why if we look and see the difference between Cain and Abel, not Cain and Abel, between Jacob and Esau, Jacob loved to dwell in the tents of his father. So he dwelt in the tents of his father where he could learn and learn from Isaac the ways of Abba Yahuwah, where he would learn from Isaac, he would learn from Abraham even, the ways of Abba Yahuwah. But what was Esau? A man, a hunter, a man that wanted to hunt, no different to Nimrod, that was a hunter that represented everything of the flesh. And so that is why Edom is Edom, which is red, which is from the earth, which represents the flesh man of the earth. That was created out of the dust of the earth, was the body, the flesh man. And so he says, if grapes gatherers come to you, if grape gatherers come to you, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? Even thieves by night would destroy only until they had enough. But as for me, I shall make Esau bare. I shall uncover his hiding places, so that he is unable to conceal himself. His seed is ravaged, his brothers and his neighbors, and he is no more. So there was no blessing for the Edomites. There was only destruction. And we see this very clearly if we were to go and look at the scriptures in, if we're going to go and have a look at Obadiah. Let's go to Obadiah. In Obadiah, if you go look at Obadiah from Obadiah 1, there's only one chapter, from verse 6, and it says, how Esau shall be searched out, his hidden treasures shall be sought out. All your alleys shall send you forth to the border. Your friends shall deceive you and overpower you. They make your bread a snare under you, without you discerning it. In that day, declares Yahuwah, I shall destroy the wise men from Edom, and discernment from the mountains of Esau. And your mighty men shall be discouraged, O Teman. Now remember, we just read about. So that everyone from the mountains of Esau is cut off by killing, because of your violence against your brother Yaakov. Let shame cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that strangers took captive his wealth, when foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you also were like one of them. And you should not have looked on your brother's day in the day of his estrangement, nor rejoiced over the children of Yehudah in the day of their destruction, nor made your mouth great in the day of distress, nor have entered the gate of my people in the day of their calamity, nor looked down on their evil in the day of their calamity, nor have seized their wealth in the day of their calamity. So you see, the children of Esau helped themselves as the children of Israel were going through the calamity that the Father brought upon them. Now you see, Father will bring the calamity upon it, but we're not to gloat on anything. We are to be able to continue to stay humble before the Father. Nor have stood at the parting of the way to cut off his fugitives, nor handed over his survivors in the day of distress. For the day of Yahuwah is near upon all the nations, and you have done, as you have done, it shall be done to you. Your reward shall come back on your own head. So do you see? All the nations that have stood up against his people in the time of when they were going through difficulty, if the nations will turn against his people, he is going to judge those nations in the end. So as you have sown, so will you reap. For as you have drunk on my set-apart mountain, so do all the nations drink continually, and they shall drink and shall swallow, and they shall be as though they had never been. So, do you see? This is exactly the destruction that the Father prophesied over Esau, and that is why he's saying that if we go back to Jeremiah 49, that he says, but as for me, I shall make, verse 10, as for me, I shall make Esau bare. I shall uncover his hiding places, so that he is unable to conceal himself. His seed is ravished, his brothers and his neighbors, and he is no more. Leave your father's children, let me keep them alive, and let your widows trust in me. For thus said Yahuwah, see, those whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have certainly drunk. So you see, those whose judgment was not to drink from the cup have certainly drank. And are you the one to go unpunished? You shall not go unpunished, but certainly drink of it. So understand, Abba's judgments will stand, and if he says he's going to judge, then you must understand that he is going to judge. For I have sworn by myself, declares Yahuwah, that Botzrah is to become a ruin, a reproach, a waste, a curse, and all its cities became everlasting wastes. And this is an area near Petra, and all that area is wasteland. That is exactly what it is today. And I have heard a report from Yahuwah, an envoy has been sent to the nations. Gather together, come against her, and rise up to battle. For look, I shall make you small among nations, despised among men. The dread of you, the pride of your heart has deceived you. O you who dwell in the clefts of the rock, holding the height of the hill, though you make your nest as high as the eagle, from there I bring you down, declares the Master Yahuwah, declares the Master. Now understand, isn't it interesting that even in the book of Revelation, they run into the mountains to try and hide in those clefts of the rock, but they're not going to be able to hide because the destruction that has been decreed will find you out. And you will, if you are bound to be, like he says, see, those whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have certainly drank, and you are the one to go and are you the one to go unpunished? And he says, he shall certainly punish. And Edom shall be a ruin. Everyone who passes by is astonished and whistles at all its plagues. So these are prophetic things that did happen, but understand something. At the same time, this is what is going to happen in the nations of the world that are going to stand against Abba Yahuwah and his ways. As in the overthrow of Sodom and Amorah and their neighboring cities, declares Yahuwah, no one shall dwell there, nor would a son of man sojourn in it. Now, isn't it interesting? What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? Total destruction, Father totally destroyed. And so if he has decreed, so it shall be. See, he comes up like a lion from the Yarden jungle against the home of the strong. But in an instant I shall make him run away from her. And who is the chosen one to appoint over her? For who is like me, and who summons me? And who is the shepherd who stands before me? So our shepherd, Yahushua, is the one who stands before the Father. And if we are not going to kiss the Son and turn to the Son, to Yahushua, HaMashiach, then you must know the destruction. That's why he says, I keep speaking it. Let's just quickly go to Psalm 2, because this is exactly the psalm that is for the judgment upon the nations, which is exactly what we're reading through all these scriptures. And so he says, why do the nations rage? Psalm 2 from verse 1. Why do the nations rage and the peoples meditate emptiness? The sovereigns of the earth take their stand, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahuwah and against his Messiah, and say, let us tear apart their bonds and throw away their ropes from us. He who is sitting in the heavens laughs. Yahuwah mocks at them. Then he speaks to them in his wrath and troubles them in his rage, saying, but I have set my sovereign on Zion, my set-apart mountain, I inscribe for a law. Yahuwah has said to me, you are my son. Today I have brought you forth. Ask me, and I shall make the nations your inheritance, and the ends of the earth your possession. Break them with a rod of iron, dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. And now be wise, O sovereigns, be instructed, you rulers of the earth. Serve Yahuwah with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the chosen, lest he be enraged, and you perish in the way. For soon his wrath is to be kindled. Blessed are all those taking refuge in him. What a powerful psalm. And this is exactly the psalm of what he's saying of here. For he says, for who is like me, and who summons me, and who is like the shepherd who stands before me? There's only one shepherd, and that is Yahushua HaMashiach. And who is like Abba Yahuwah? Our faith and our trust need to be in him. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahuwah, which he has counseled concerning Edom, and the purposes he has purposed concerning the inhabitants of Taman. The least of the flock shall drag them away. He shall make their pasture a waste before them. The earth shall be shaken at the noise of their fall. There is an outcry. Its noise is heard at the Sea of Reeds, which is the Red Sea. See, like an eagle, he flies up and spreads his wings over Botsra. This is the Father saying, he, like an eagle, flies up, spreads his wings over Botsra. And the heart of the mighty men of Edom in the day shall be like the heart of a woman in her pain. Concerning Damasek, Hamath and Arpad have been put to shame, for they have heard an evil report. They have been melted in anxiety, like the sea, unable to rest. Damasek has become feeble. She has turned to flee, and trembling has taken hold of her. Distress and pain has seized her like a woman in labor. Now this verse 24 comes from Isaiah chapter 17. So let's just read Isaiah chapter 17 so that we understand this. Isaiah chapter 17, verses 1 to 3. And it says, the message concerning Damasek. See, Damasek ceases to be a city and shall become a heap of ruins. The cities of Aroer are forsaken. They are for flocks. They are for flocks which shall lie down with no one to frighten. And the stronghold shall cease from Ephraim, and the rain from Damasek, and the remnant of Aram be as the esteem of the sons of Israel, declares Yahuwah of hosts. So you see, here we are seeing what he is speaking, that it is going to be destroyed. And he says, concerning Damasek, Hamath and Arpad have been put to shame, for they have heard an evil report. They have been melted in anxiety like a woman unable to rest. And so verse 25 says, and how is the city to praise deserted, the city of my joy? Therefore her young men fall in her streets, and all the men of battle are cut off in that day, declares Yahuwah of hosts. So you see, Father sends forth like I said, the horsemen are riding, and as the horsemen are riding, destruction is going to come. And I shall kindle a fire in the wall of Damasek, and it shall consume the palaces of Ben-Hadad. To Kedar and to the reigns of Hatzor, which Nebuchadrezzar, sovereign of Babel, struck. Thus said Yahuwah, arise, go up to Kedar, and ravage the men of the east. So you see, great destruction is going to come. Their tents and their flocks, their curtains and all their vessels shall be taken, and they shall take away their camels for themselves, and they shall cry out to them, fear is on every side. You know, if we really read through these chapters, of this last few chapters, of this book of Jeremiah, and if we think that Abba Yahuwah is not going to bring judgment, and the Father that is being presented to us through the Christianity that we've received is that he is only love, but there is no other side to the fact that he's righteous and he's just, and he's going to have to judge the nations because of his just and righteous side. So as much as he is loving and he is kind, but he's just and he's upright, and he's righteous, and he will judge the unrighteousness in the lands, all over the nations. And so when we read this, then it makes the book of Revelation more bearable to read, because we understand there's nothing new under the sun. He's done this before, but yet we seem to be thinking that this book of Revelation is so hectic because all this destruction that is coming. But look and see, how much destruction have we read already just in the last 3 chapters that we've been reading? Flee, go away, dwell in the depths, O inhabitants of Hatzor, declares Yahuwah. For Nebuchadrezzar, sovereign of Babel, has taken counsel against you and has devised a plan against you. Arise, go up to the nation at ease that dwells safely, declares Yahuwah, and has no gates or bars, they dwell alone. And their camels shall become plunder, and their large herds booty, and I shall scatter them to all winds, those who cut off the corner and bring their calamity from all its sides, declares Yahuwah. And so we must understand the Father is the one who is going to be able to, he is going to use this sovereign Nebuchadrezzar. He is going to use the sovereign to be able to bring the destruction on the nations that he's wanting to destroy. But then the tables turn, and then he is going to destroy Nebuchadrezzar. Why? Because instead of him having turned to the Father, he did not. He became arrogant and he became filled with pride. Hatzor shall be a habitation for jackals, a desert forever. No one dwells there, nor does Son of Man sojourn in it. The word of Yahuwah came to Yirmiyahu, the prophet, concerning Elam, in the beginning of the reign of Tzidkiyahu, the sovereign of Yehudah, saying, Thus said Yahuwah of hosts, see, I'm breaking the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. Now, Elam is what in those days was Persia. So this was known as the land of Persia, which is today modern Iran. Interesting. Modern Iran. And so he says, Thus says Yahuwah of hosts, see, I'm breaking the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. Interesting. It is this very leader of this nation of Iran that keeps speaking about destroying Israel, annihilating them, so that there be no one left of them. He wants to annihilate them completely. So understand, what happened to Persia in the past is what is going to come again. And I shall bring upon Elam the 4 winds from the 4 quarters of the heavens, and scatter them towards all those winds, and there shall be no nation where the outcasts of Elam do not go. Interesting how those tribes, especially the Arab nations, scattered. To how many nations they've been scattered. And I shall break Elam before their enemies and before those who seek their life, and I shall bring evil upon them, my burning displeasure, declares Yahuwah, and I shall send the sword after them until I have consumed them. And so understand, this arrogant leader of Iran that keeps wanting to be able to spew out threats against Eretz Israel will be annihilated once again. And they are the ones wanting to bring forth their nuclear weapons. But understand, it will be to their own detriment in the end. And I shall set my throne in Elam, and destroy from there the sovereign and the heads, declares Yahuwah. And it shall be in the latter days that I shall turn back the captivity of Elam, declares Yahuwah. And so that is why, again, they have become a nation. So they were destroyed, Persia was destroyed, but once again they became a nation, which is today Iran. And what are they doing once again? The same arrogance, the same pride, the same wanting to stand up against Yahuwah, and therefore they will receive the destruction that will come their way. May Abba bless you all. May you enjoy the rest of your time as we continue to prepare ourselves for Shavuot. May Abba bless you all. Shalom, shalom.